In this video, we will be studying about mathematics. We will be beginning with your chapter number 2, that is multiplication and division of integers. Students, when you talk about mathematics, the first thing that comes to your mind is numbers. Now you know what numbers are. Example 1, 2, 3, 4. These type of numbers are called as counting numbers or natural numbers. Now when you begin counting from 0 onwards, that is from 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on, these numbers are called as whole numbers. And last year in 6th standard, you came across numbers like these. And these numbers are called as integers. So students, in this chapter, we are going to study about multiplication and division of integers. So students, we know that positive numbers 0 and negative numbers form a group of numbers which are called as integers. Now in integers, according to the definitions, we have the positive numbers 0 and the negative number. The positive numbers are generally written like this. Now this plus sign shows that these numbers are positive. But for generally writing, we do not show this plus sign. We just write the numbers as they are. A number only written like this format are considered to be positive numbers. Whereas if you just put a minus sign in front of it like this, then they become the negative number. So these are positive numbers and these are negative numbers. You have studied about the positive and the negative number in your previous standard. Now looking at the number line given over there, you can see that 0 is considered as the center or the origin, and 0 does not have any sign, which means 0 is neither negative nor positive. And the negative numbers are on the left hand side of the 0 and the positive numbers are on the right hand side of the 0. Students, in the previous year, you have studied about the addition and subtraction of integers. Now we'll just do a small recap of what we have studied last year. Okay, now when you're adding two integers, there are a few rules to be followed. Okay, now we'll look about adding two integers with the same sign. For example, we are adding two positive integers like 2 plus 5. Now, these both integers have the same sign. So while adding two integers of the same sign, we ignore their sign and add the numbers. So what is 2 plus 5? 2 plus 5 is 7. 7. Then we give the sum obtained the common sign. Here, since it is a positive number, we are not going to write anything. Example number 2. Now consider we have two numbers which have negative sign like minus 3 plus minus 9. Again, we are supposed to add these two numbers. Now we are not going to look at the sign of the integers. We are just going to add the two numbers. So 3 plus 9 is 12 and we are going to give the common sign to this sum. Understood? While adding integers of the same sign, you ignore the sign and add the numbers. Then give the common sign to the sum obtained. Now, while adding integers with different signs, we are going to have the same concept. For example, like I have 9 plus minus 3. Consider 9 plus minus 3. So when you are adding integers with the different sign, what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to ignore the sign. You are not supposed to look at the sign. You have to just understand one thing. They have different signs and we have to add them. So what you are going to do is you are going to ignore the sign and you are going to subtract the smaller number from the bigger one. The smaller number is 3 and the bigger number is 9. So 9 minus 3. 9 minus 3 is 6. And you're going to give the sign of the bigger number. Which is the bigger number over here? 9. And 9 is positive. So this answer is also going to be positive. I'll do one more example where you have a clear idea. So if I have minus 20 plus say 7. Minus 20 plus 7. Now we are going to do the same thing. We are going to add two integers with different signs. Now we are going to ignore the sign. We are going to ignore the sign of the integer and we are going to subtract them. So 20 minus 7. 20 minus 7 is 13. And we are going to look at the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is 20. So we are going to put the negative sign over here. So students, while adding integers of different signs, you ignore the sign and subtract the smaller number from the bigger one. And then you give the sign of the bigger number to the difference obtained. Okay. Now we will look into subtraction. Now when you're subtracting two integers, understand one thing. When you're subtracting two integers, you are supposed to convert one of the integers to the opposite number. I'll explain how. So if you have 3 minus 7, okay, so you're going to subtract 3 minus 7. So what you're going to do is you're going to change this format to this. You're going to write this 3. You're going to make this minus sign as plus and you're going to write the opposite number of minus 7. Students, opposite number of minus 7 is plus 7. So what you have is 3 plus 7, that is equals to 10. We'll do one more example. Consider if you have minus 5 minus 7. So what you're going to do is, or I would say plus 7. So what you're going to do is, always remember the number after the minus sign will be converted into opposite number. So you're not going to change this first number. This first number is going to be as it is. This minus sign will convert to plus and this plus 7 will convert to minus 7. So now you're adding two integers. So when you're adding two integers with the same sign, so 5 plus 7 is 12 and the common minus sign. So students, while subtracting an integer, you are supposed to add the opposite number to the first one. Students, you know about multiplication table. Most of you must have by-hearted them. Now we will look into the multiplication of integers. Like addition and subtraction, multiplication also have some rules. So let us look into the multiplication of integers. Now consider multiplication of two positive integers. Two positive integers like positive 2 multiplied by positive 6. So positive 2 multiplied by positive 6, the answer will be 12. The answer will be 12. Now if you notice, the positive number multiplied by the positive number, we have got the answer as positive. So the first rule of multiplication for integers is when you multiply two positive integers, the product is also positive. So if you multiply 13 into 3, the answer will be positive 39. Okay, you can make your own examples like this and move on. Okay, now the second rule for multiplication, product of two negative numbers. We have done the product of positive numbers. Now let us look at the product of negative numbers. For example, if you have -5 multiplied by -4. Now, product of two negative integers is always a positive integer. Means if you multiply 5 into 4, 5 fours is 20. But the sign is same. So in multiplication, if the sign is same, the product is positive. One more example. -7 multiplied by -2. -7 into -2 will give you positive 14. So the rule for multiplication, multiplying two positive integers, the product will be positive. Multiplying two negative integers, the product will be positive. Remember, multiplying like terms, the answer is positive. Remember, multiplying like terms, the answer is positive. I have repeated it 2 times for you to understand and keep it in your mind. Okay, now let us see what if the numbers have different signs. So if I have -3 multiplied by 2. Now students, if you are finding the product of two integers with different sign, the product is going to be negative. So you are going to multiply 3 twos are 3 twos is 6. This is plus and this is, sorry, this is minus and this is plus. So the answer will be negative. One more example. -5 multiplied by 10. So -5 into 10 will give you -50. So product of one positive integer and one negative integer is a negative integer. Now some of you may have question, sir, here you have taken the first integer as negative. What if the second integer is negative? The result remains the same. So if you have something like this, 4 multiplied by -6. See, what is the statement? Multiplication of two integers with different signs. The product is negative. So we got two integers with different signs. So the product will be 24 and the sign will be negative. One more example. So if you have 11 multiplied by -7. Okay. So what will be the answer over here? You will have 77 with a minus sign. Understood? Students, now let us look into a few examples of multiplication of integers. So first we'll look into a positive integer multiplied by a positive integer. The product is positive. These are a few examples. Now we'll look when a negative integer is multiplied by a negative integer. The answer is also positive. These are a few examples. Now we'll look what answer you get when you multiply a positive integer with a negative integer. The answer you have is a negative answer. Now we'll look into when a negative integer is multiplied by a positive integer. The product so formed is negative. These are a few examples. Now students, you are supposed to practice these examples at home.